Before the world even knew it, the Vatican had gone quiet. No bells. No official announcement. Just silence. But deep inside a quiet hospital room, something was happening. Something powerful. Something eternal. Lying on his hospital bed, Pope Francis, spiritual leader to over 1 billion Catholics, turned to his nurse with trembling lips. What he said next was so shocking, so emotional, so personal, that the Vatican tried to keep it hidden. But now, those final words have been leaked. This is not just a story about death, it's about revelation, forgiveness, mystery, and the truth that only one person heard. And it wasn't a cardinal or bishop. It was the nurse. Make sure to subscribe for more godly and emotional presentations like this. You won't want to miss what comes next. Chapter 1: The Final Hours of Pope Francis. The Vatican has always been a place of secrecy and tradition. But behind the walls of St. Martha's house, Pope Francis had become increasingly fragile in his last days. The world saw him bless crowds, smile gently, and speak peace. But those closest to him, especially his nurse, saw the weakness in his legs, the strain in his breath, the sorrow behind his eyes. He had stopped writing official documents. His public appearances had grown rare. Every word, every breath was a whisper of his declining health. Yet amidst the physical pain, there was something deeper, something spiritual. Something that haunted him. Sources close to the Vatican reported that Francis had been asking fewer political questions and more spiritual ones. "Have I done enough?" he reportedly asked one evening. But none knew how close he was to his final moment. That moment would come quietly. No cameras. No cardinals. Just a hospital room and a nurse who didn't know that she was about to hear the final whisper of the most powerful man in Catholicism. Chapter 2: The Nurse Who Witnessed It All. She wasn't a cardinal. She wasn't a nun. She wasn't even a close member of the clergy. But this woman, a simple nurse from Argentina, was assigned to Pope Francis in the last week of his life. Not because she had influence, but because she had compassion. Her identity remains protected for security reasons, but her testimony has shaken the world. Described as quiet and deeply respectful, she treated the Pope not as a holy figure, but as a fragile, elderly man in pain. That's exactly what he needed. As the final moments drew close, the Vatican ensured only trusted staff were in the room. But it was this nurse, unknown to the global Catholic community, who was alone with him when he began whispering. His words weren't rehearsed, formal, or political. They were raw. Human. And urgent. Tears welled in her eyes as he reached for her hand. What he said next would stay with her forever. It wasn't meant for the cardinals, or even the church. It was meant for one soul who had listened, without judgment. Chapter 3: Please listen. His last words begin. He began with a whisper, "Please, listen." The nurse leaned in, expecting something small, maybe a request for water, or prayer. But instead, Pope Francis began to confess. He didn't name names. He didn't quote scripture. He simply spoke like a man who had carried too many burdens, seen too much, and had no time left to pretend. His words were filled with emotion. I tried to love them all, even when they didn't love me back." His hand trembled in hers. It wasn't just pain. It was sorrow. Tell them to forgive each other, before it's too late." He paused. Looked up at the ceiling. His eyes were wet. The church must heal. Not fight. What shocked the nurse was not the words themselves, but the tears behind them. A pope who had faced scandals, criticism, and political pressure now lay helpless, not defending his legacy, but begging for unity. Chapter 4: A Message of Forgiveness and Regret. Pope Francis' next words revealed a heart heavy with regret. Though known as a progressive leader who reached out to the poor and the marginalized, Francis knew he had made enemies within and outside the church. His words hinted at unresolved battles. "I forgave them. Even the ones who betrayed me. It was clear he was referring to internal church politics, perhaps even secret factions that worked against him. He didn't go into detail, but the pain was visible. God knows. God sees. Then, he turned his focus back to the people, not the cardinals, not politicians, but ordinary believers. Tell them. I wasn't perfect. But I never stopped loving them. The nurse later said this was the moment that broke her. Not because he cried, but because he wanted his people to know he tried. In his final breath, the Pope was asking not for applause, but for grace. Chapter 5: Why he mentioned the Patriarch before dying. One of the most unexpected moments came when Pope Francis mentioned the Patriarch. He said, "Tell Bartholomew. I still believe in unity." It was a rare glimpse into a silent hope. For centuries, the Catholic and Orthodox churches had been divided. And yet, on his deathbed, Pope Francis revealed that this unity had weighed on his heart until the very end. "He's a good man, not my enemy." These words shocked the nurse. The rivalry between popes and patriarchs is ancient, rooted in theology, tradition, and authority. Yet in his final moments, Pope Francis saw not division, but brotherhood. The nurse asked softly, "What should I tell him?" He answered, "Tell him. I'm sorry it took so long. Could this be the beginning of something greater?" Chapter 6: The hidden pain behind the papal robes. The world saw Pope Francis as calm, strong, and peaceful. But the nurse saw something else. Physical suffering, hidden emotional wounds, and spiritual pressure. He told her, "It's not easy to be holy when everyone expects you to be perfect." He wasn't complaining. He was confessing. The burden of being Pope wasn't just the workload, it was the constant judgment, the impossible standard, the loneliness. He recalled how people criticized his every word, when he was too soft, too strong, too political, too neutral. They forgot I was still human. Even till the end, he carried the pressure of being God's representative, even when he felt so far from perfect. Chapter 7: What the Vatican doesn't want you to know. Not everything the Pope said was soft. He hinted at battles inside the Vatican, decisions he regretted, secrets that weighed on him. He didn't name them. But he whispered, "There's more, but not everything can be told now." He said some things must be left to God. But what struck the nurse most was his fear, not of death, but of how the Church might twist his legacy. "Promise me, let them remember my heart, not the politics." These words have been kept out of official records. Why? Because they reveal a truth the Church struggles with, that even the Pope is not in control. Chapter 8: The nurse speaks out, a private confession. After the Pope passed, the Vatican issued a very brief statement. No mention of his final words. No mention of the nurse. But she couldn't hold it in. She confided in a trusted priest, who later leaked her account to a small journalist circle. Slowly, word spread. Now, the world knows. She said, "He didn't want glory. He just wanted peace and forgiveness." She kept his secrets out of respect, but she shared his final wishes so the world could understand. The man under the robes was broken, faithful, and still full of hope. Chapter 9: The message that shocked the cardinals. After his passing, the cardinals gathered in silence. One of them had been told, privately, what the nurse had heard. The room was quiet. Then the cardinal whispered. He said, "Tell them to forgive each other." The mood changed. It wasn't about politics anymore. It wasn't about succession. It was about a dying man's last wish for peace. Even those who had disagreed with him were moved. Some wept. Others prayed. For a moment, the Vatican wasn't a palace. It was a tomb filled with silence, memory, and possibly a miracle of unity. Chapter 10: Pope Francis' legacy and the mystery of his final whisper. So what exactly were his final words? Some say it was forgive. Others say it was love them. But the nurse insists it was this. Tell the world. I still believe in mercy. That one word, mercy, is the legacy of Pope Francis. Not perfection. Not politics. Mercy. In a world full of noise and division, Pope Francis left with a whisper that may be louder than any sermon he ever preached. We may never understand all he saw. But now, we know what truly mattered to him, not power, but peace. Not doctrine, but forgiveness. Not fear, but love. Pushpin don't just watch, subscribe to help us keep these emotional stories of faith alive. And comment below. What do you think of Pope Francis' final words?